Okay, so this is going to be another Has-Been Hotel fanfiction idea that I kind of thought of. I don't usually... I know I've talked a few times about original ideas here and there, but I don't like talking about them because I'm always having this fear that they get stolen. I know it's a little paranoid, but I've seen it happen before where someone talks about an idea before they write it and then someone else comes along and gets it, so this is why I kind of talk about fanfiction more, so if someone else writes it, it's no skin off of my bones. But if it's an original idea, then it's a little disheartening. Anywho, so let's talk about Alastor. Now, Alastor is this fanfiction idea that kind of is in an anthology story. It's kind of an anthology tale, and it does have a little bit of inspiration from Joker in there too, and I'll explain in a moment. So the idea I had is like it's a anthology series that was kind of like in the vein of Tales from the Crypt and a little bit of Freddy's Nightmares. So in here, in this series, we follow Alastor, Alastor in Hell and on Earth, causing these little raining terror on certain people. And I'm going to talk about some of the story ideas I had that involved everyone's favorite radio demon and his effect on people. Now, our first story is set in 1960. The first story was set in 1960, and a elderly couple has gone to an antique store and purchased one of Alastor's the radio that Alastor owned in life. So when they start playing the music, it's like, oh, it just feels like, it's, we're back in, back in the glory days and what have you, and life was, easy and simple and not these, weirdo beatniks running around and what have you. But as the radio keeps playing, and as the longer they keep it, the longer they have, like, these little strange things happening. Like, there's just these thoughts of violence on one another, they are becoming restless, their house is constantly cold, the radio is switched on when it's supposed to be off, and it just, like I said, it just keeps kind of snowballing over and over until the elderly couple ends up killing each other. Yeah. And then another story that features Alastor is Alastor wasn't really seen in that one. He was more like the monster in the shadows for that one. In this next one, however, he's kind of front and center. Now, this is a tale set during World War II. Now, for those who don't know, Alastor died in 1933, so he never saw the war in life. But in this story, which I called On the Home Front, which was set during World War II, is the story of these German spies who have infiltrated the American homes, and their plan is to spread like a panic throughout New York and certain cities across the world, and slip in and out real easy. But however, one little problem. One of the places that one of these Nazi sleeper agents was staying at was in the same antique store that had Alastor's radio. And the problem is that it's not that Alastor was trying to be patriotic or anything. What his end goal was that he saw how evil these people were, and he wanted them in hell with him so he could further build up his army in hell, because at the time, he's still making a name for himself in hell. He is still in hell, building his cred, essentially. He is in hell, building his cred and still building his reputation as one of the most powerful beings hell has ever, one of the most powerful souls hell has ever produced. So that was the idea, is that Alastor kind of drives these Nazi soldiers to kill themselves by raining psychological warfare down on them, and keeping them from carrying out their plan. But at the same time, he didn't do it out of the goodness of his heart, not because he was like a Yankee Doodle dandy. Trust me, he was not. So I guess, like, what was another story I had? This one kind of dealt with Alastor in his life. This was back in his life, where Alastor is following, actually, a descendant of his. He's actually following around and Ascendant, and you'll notice that a lot of these deal with a radio, because yeah, Alastor's the radio demon, and he owned a radio, and that's the linchpin of all these stories, that the radio kind of goes throughout history being passed around. So Alastor in here is following a kind of like really pathetic, really just shy kid who is, just keeping his head down and, letting life trample all over him, and Alastor is kind of watching him. And at first he's like, oh god, I am so ashamed that my gene pool became this. But at the same time, he can't help but think back to in his life, back when he was alive, and essentially kind of a nobody. He was this nobody until he started killing people, and until he started to make a name for himself in hell. So in his head, he's like, hey, I want to help this, he's my blood, I want to help him out, I'm going to give him a hand in this situation. So what he does is essentially possess the guy and make him go on killing sprees against anyone who doesn't, who he doesn't agree with. Another one I called Girls' Night, which is a story that centers around these group of college girls, yeah, we're doing college girl horror, who... One of them has bought Alastor's radio, and they didn't buy it so much as they did find it they found it just lying on a street corner, like, hey, this could be a cool little decoration, because one of them enjoys, retro stuff, so she thought, hey, this radio will look cool in my dorm. So they take it, and they're playing Ouija on Halloween night. You can see how bad this is gonna go. And, of course, they call Alastor, and Alastor proceeds to brutally kill them one by one. He kills one by making her see multiple images on a television so fast that she has a seizure, and he comes in and just watches her as she flails around and brain hemorrhage, and just has a brain hemorrhage and dies. Another one is where he more or less scares her, and she falls down another girl falls down a set of stairs, and when her ankle's broken from the fall, he comes down and proceeds to impale her through the eye with the bottom of his microphone. Another one, he turns inside out. Another, he smashes her face into a mirror. Alastor does some really horrendous shit to these women. And then goes back and is like, Happy Halloween, and proceeds to leave the premises. But that was the thing, is that, I thought it'd be kind of fun, because Alastor, when you really think about it, not to discredit any of the other characters from Hazbin Hotel, but really, he is definitely the most fun character, really. He is the most fun character to see on screen for so little we've seen of him, and to see him interact with all these characters, it's he's just this fun character, and it really, when you want to do a Tales from the Crypt kind of thing, if you were to do it with any character from Hazbin Hotel, it'd be Alastor, who would more than likely get the Tales from the Crypt kind of treatment. Though I did think of a few other ideas of Alastor kind of telling stories, he's telling the story, telling the story like he's the Crypt Keeper, and it involves other demons, or just him talking about past time, just times he thought he was having fun. Another one I thought of is set during the 50s, with a young biker gang, and they trash the antique store and break Alastor's radio, and Alastor proceeds to terrorize them all. And you may be thinking, why is he so connected to this radio? Why a radio, and why is he connected to it? Well, A, he's the radio demon. B, because in the story I had it that Alastor was connected to this radio because this is the radio he would always listen to as a kid, listening to stories from War of the Worlds or stuff like that. But as he got older, it's also the radio he listened in on when he was out committing murders. When he was out, he wanted to listen to himself and how he had got this claim to fame that he never had before, and now he's listening to all the grisly details, and he's just smiling in the background, so he's connected to this radio on an emotional level, or emotionless level. Pick your poison, really. So that was pretty much the idea, is that it follows Alastor's radio, and he comes in and terrorizes or murders whoever takes it or breaks it or whatever, and goes on his happy way. Again, kind of like Freddy's Nightmares, I guess you could say, or Tales from the Crypt. It just a fun little idea, because like I said, if there was any character that could work for like that kind of storytelling, if that kind of anthology horror, it would more than likely be Alastor. Let's be real. Alastor would be at the first and foremost of it. Maybe Serpentius, but he seems more like he would screw it up than actually do any real damage. So you guys tell me in the comments below, what do you guys think of this idea? Do you guys like it, hate it? And what stories would you do with Alastor in an anthology horror? Just comment below, let me know, and once again, I hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.